Hello and welcome to this audio edition of the Player Spotlight. I'm Tyler Rowland, and I'm excited to introduce my guest to you today. First off, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll really help with our ability to grow and expand our reach to further promote these athletes and coaches. And I'm excited to introduce to you a two-time regional champion, the head coach of Paul G. Blazer High School, Ashland, Ryan Bonner. And Ryan, it's so good to have you on here, man. And gosh, I gotta say, first off, as somebody who, it's so cool. It feels like yesterday we were in high school together, and now just seeing going off what you've done, I'm so proud of you, man. And let's start on your journey, because when you look at it right now, you have two regional titles. You won your second. I have the schedule open on March 12th of 24 against Boyd County. 16 months before that, you had not even coached your first varsity game. You look at the coaches that have come through, Mike Flynn and Wayne Breeden. They won two regional titles at Ashland. Buddy Biggs has two regional titles, one at Mason, one at Pendleton County. How does it feel just looking at that and just seeing the company you're in right now?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for having me on here. It's really awesome what you're doing to promote athletics around the area. And going back to your first comment, it does feel like just yesterday you and I were in I think it was actually 3-a-days at the time, in the summer heat on the football field. And so it's nice to see that our paths have kind of gone in the same direction, and appreciate all you do again to promote athletics in our area. But moving into your next question, I've been very, very, very fortunate. I tell people this all the time, to have played under the coaches that I've played under, and also worked under the coaches that I've worked under. Just being an Ashland alum, and there's a tradition and there's an expectation to win. And my approach to this job is that every single day I'm going to try to win the job or win the day in some form or fashion, and just string together as many good days as I can. And we're blessed at Ashland to have great, excellent, skilled basketball players and good leaders in the locker room, and all that stuff just combines to make a championship experience. But being in the list of names that you just reeled off, man, I did not really realize that, but that's definitely good company to be amongst. I'm obviously very grateful, and I tell everybody I've got the best job in the world. That being the head basketball coach at Ashland is the greatest thing one of the greatest things I've ever had the opportunity to take on. So just very grateful.
And we'll start off talking about one of those names I mentioned, Buddy Biggs, especially. I know you keep in touch with quite a bit. I was kind of wondering, of course, you all met in the regional tournament, and I've been knowing how hard both of you work. I was kind of wondering which one had more sleep going into that, because I bet you guys are up all night probably doing X's and O's, trying to figure out each other's strategies. Talk about Buddy Biggs and the impact that he had on you as a coach.
Well, he's one of my number one mentors in coaching and in life. I loved playing for him because I was one of those players that I wanted to be held accountable. I wanted to be coached hard, and he did that. And the one of the things I always respected about Coach Biggs is he every single day he coached his butt off, just energetic, and like I said, really made sure he held everybody to a high standard. And those were big takeaways for me. And he and Leon Hart both were guys that really helped drive my decision to go into teaching and coaching. And Buddy's he's a guy that I talk to probably once a week on average. We stay in communication very, very often, and we were joking and giving each other a hard time leading up to that game. But I don't think either one of us got much sleep, and that was one that from a preparation standpoint, that was one of our, I thought, best prepped games of the season. Our coaching staff did a phenomenal job getting our guys ready for that game, to the point to where they just knew what was coming the second they heard a play call, or the second that they saw a specific action. And Xander Carter's defensive performance in that game was just incredible on Adam Hargett. So that was a game that really I that one will stick with me for a long time, just for the fact that our staff we worked tirelessly on that game preparation, and that I thought it really showed in the performance of our players, and they did a really good job of understanding the scout, being attentive during film sessions and walkthroughs and all that stuff. So, and I know Buddy did the same thing, because that's something that I learned from Buddy, was the importance of preparation. I think that can win you close games and steal you possessions that you need, and that was something that I always learned from Buddy.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to mention the Boyd County game next, but before that, you mentioned another name that actually hasn't come up yet, and I don't think any of the interviews, Harley, but that's, of course, Leon Hart. And talk about him, gosh, you think back to that football field, and like you said yesterday, it felt like we were out there, and, just him, coming in, he made an impact his first year. I remember as a sophomore, then reaching the regional finals for the first time since 1991. That was 2003. And of course, Coach Hart, who would go on to win 3 district titles during his time at Ashland. And talk about a quality that or something that you've learned from Coach Hart.
First, one of the things I always respected and I loved about Leon, about Coach Hart, and this is something that I've applied to my coaching philosophy and my style, is I always thought that he incorporated a good sense of humor into his coaching. And you know what I'm talking about. He just would say things that he was the kind of coach that would say something and you'd have to process it, and then maybe 5 minutes later you would start laughing because you realized what he said. And I always thought that he had a great sense of humor, and also didn't take himself too seriously, but again, he was about holding kids accountable and holding players to a very high standard. But I always liked his approach and the way that he did that, and he also valued having good relationships with the players. And he was very open to player feedback and having a player-led program. And those are things that I picked up on very early. And, I've been very fortunate to I've tried to take pieces from each coach that I've played under or worked with and applied it to my own coaching philosophy. But, man, one of the things that always stands out to me about Coach Hart was he had such a great sense of humor and he had a good balance of really holding players to a high standard and high level of accountability, but not taking things so seriously to where it was a miserable experience. I had nothing but fun playing under Coach Hart, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, a lot of good times, and just looking back in retrospect, and not just even from the football field, coming down the steps on Friday night, and also the weight room. Like, I just remember just some really good memories in there, especially when we would max and you mentioned, how Coach Hart, and that's how he was. He had a healthy work-life balance. He'd go hunting or he'd go walking, or he had a healthy balance. And talk about that. Do you think in today's time that we've kind of elevated sports, as fun as it is, as much as we enjoy it? Do you think it's been elevated to kind of a golden calf type status?
Absolutely. And, I tell our guys, I think it's important in life, in sports and in life, to be well balanced. Go be a 17, 18-year-old kid. Go play around a golf or go. We have several of our guys that go play pickleball down at the park, or they'll do things like that. Go fish. Go, like you said, go hunt. Do something to separate yourself from the game for a little bit. I think that's a very healthy habit. I'm a musician. When I'm not in season, I get out and play music on the weekends, maybe once or twice a month, and it's good for me. It's good mentally for me because you can drive yourself crazy in this profession, and it's important to have that balance to kind of keep you grounded and keep it fresh and keep it exciting. I think that's the most important thing. And I tell our guys that all the time. Go be a teenager, man. Go be a 17, 18-year-old kid. Have fun. And, you don't ever want it to get to a point to where it feels like a job. And I don't feel like it's a job for me. It's so much fun. And I think in order to keep it that way, you definitely got to have a good balance. And Coach Hart, you're right. He was great about that. He was and still is an avid turkey hunter, and finds ways to balance life out in a positive way.
Talk about your staff, and because one thing I thought that you did so well with Ryan this year was mentioning your assistants and using that platform that you have to really promote them and just show what they do for just how much they give to the program.
Yeah, I'm biased, but I think that we have the best coaching staff in the state. And I'll start with Brian LeMaster. He's our associate head coach, and Brian is great. I think everybody knows by now with his track record. He was very successful as an assistant under Roger Zorns. And then obviously Coach Mays, and now where we're at now, he knows and understands how to win a basketball game. But Brian also understands how to manage things outside of basketball. He's a huge help when it comes to raising funds for our program. He's a huge help in making sure we are always communicating the right things to players and parents. And one of the things I think he does the best job of is maintaining a positive relationship with our players. He took Caleb Clark down to Jackson City this past spring for a sophomore all-star game. He's just willing to do little things like that to show that he really cares about our players. And his record as an assistant speaks for itself. But I consider him one of my best friends, a great guy, and just enjoy talking basketball with him. Troy Lee Thomas, who's very well known across the state, just a great, excellent X's and O basketball mind, and an excellent scout. He's a guy that will at the drop of a hat will take off and go scout a game in Lexington on a Tuesday night if we're not playing, if he has to. He did a great job. He compiled a lot of our scouting reports this season, and did a great job doing so. And that was something I kind of handed off to him, and he took that and ran with it and really helped with our game preparation. And, he also knows a ton of people across the state and basketball world, which is very, very resourceful. And he's also another guy that values relationships and always works to maintain solid relationships with our players. He is probably, I would say, on average 3 days a week open in the gym at 6:30 in the morning for players, and just goes above and beyond what's required of him. And when our players see our coaches doing the unrequired, I think there's a light bulb that goes off for our student athletes that think, well, maybe I need to be doing the unrequired. And very grateful for Troy Lee and his contributions the past couple of years, and he's just a fun guy to be around. And then you got Tyler Dotson, who is a new hire this year. He was on staff at Huntington High under Ty Holmes. I think for just a season, had a lot of success, and had a great, I talked to Coach Ty Holmes at the end of the season, and he gave Tyler an outstanding reference. And I remember watching Tyler coach in the freshman AIT against us. He was Huntington High's freshman coach, and I was very impressed with him then, just the way he handled his team, his demeanor, his composure. And that was before I really even knew that he was such a well-thought-of skill development instructor in the tri-state area. And we were able to get him, and he has done such a good job with our skill program. I mean, he is very talented in terms of developing skill set for players. And he took on a role this year where we essentially turned that over to him and said, look, man, you're going to be in charge of our skill development. This is your baby. You take it and you run with it. And it showed. When you go back and you watch the regional finals, I didn't call a whole lot of plays. I just let our guys go make plays. And that's huge when you have that element to your basketball team, because, when you get to the region tournament, everybody knows what you're running. Everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows, everybody knows. So at some point, you're just going to have to go make plays. And Tyler Dotson plays a big role in that. So that was a slam dunk hire. And then lastly, was Nick Miller. One of my main priorities when I got the job officially was to go out and hire somebody that had played at Ashland. I wanted a former player. And, of course, Nick was an outstanding basketball player at Ashland. His career kind of got a little sideways because of injuries, but my gosh, he was dominant and understands what it means to play at Ashland. And Nick was a sponge this year and just soaked everything in. Did a great job with that freshman bunch. And, he's a guy that's going to watch his film. He's going to, take notes. He's going to, he's going to try to just soak everything up. And one of the things that really impressed me about Coach Miller was, he did a really good job with, he'd give really good feedback regarding game time adjustments, meaningful things that are meaningful and that can really be applied. And, he sees the game through the coach's lens already, and he's very young, and that's a gift. That's hard. I mean, when you're a young coach, it is hard to see the game through a coach's lens. That's something that takes time, but he's proven that he already has that, and another slam dunk hire. So I think our staff is top tier. I love everything that they contribute, and they're obviously instrumental in what we do.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about that regional championship game against Boyd County. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you played, your schedule had, my gosh, you had pretty much the 65 Celtics, the 87 Lakers, the 96 Kentucky Wildcats. I mean, it was, and playing Boyd County 4 times a team like that is, I mean, just to win once is a feat in itself, regardless of which team it is. And talk about that regional championship game from your perspective. And because, I mean, the only time Boyd led was 2-0, and I mean, you guys came in and just start to finish, defensively had several shot blocks. I mean, you could just see the intense focus that you had in that game. And I know it's hard. Of course, it's hard when it's hard to beat any team 4 times in a season, let alone a team as good as you guys are. But talk about that game and just what went into it for you, especially with the 2 times, because I know you had up 12 with 4 minutes to go and lost in overtime and then lost another overtime classic for the district. But talk about the region and how that, what went into that game for you.
Well, Boyd County is an extremely difficult team to prepare for, and we were fortunate to get multiple cracks at it, and we just kept trying and adjusted our scheme and the way that we were doing things. And even though it was a quick turnaround, you had to play the next night, we were able to put together an incredible scheme and game plan for them and we really hung our hat all year long on our half-court defense and being physical, because I felt like that matched our personnel. Which, regardless of personnel, I think it's important to be physical, and I think it's important to play tough anyways. But I thought that really married well to our personnel, and it seemed like when we got to the regional tournament, it all came to fruition at the right time. And our guys just really took their preparation to a whole nother level. And it was almost as if, going back to the Fleming County game regarding preparation, our guys were a step quicker defensively, just because they knew what was happening in real time. There was no lag because they knew what was coming. They knew the actions, and they took pride in sitting down and getting stops. And it was just little things really that we emphasized all season long and every day in practice, and it finally the light bulb went off. And it's hard when you play a schedule that tough because, man, some teams that we played are just, they're hard to stop. And I think that toughness of schedule paid off. I think it paid dividends and allowed us to really play our best basketball at the right time. But, I always go back to our preparation, and we try to explain to our guys, knowledge is quickness. And, we don't want to overload our guys from a scouting and preparation standpoint, but we want to give them as much as they can to help them play quicker in the moment to where they know and they understand what's going on. And I think that our guys you could see the determination, the desperation, and the focus in their eyes in that locker room. And, there was a video that Austin Clark put out. I do remember giving that speech in the locker room before the game, but I told our guys, I said, I still don't think that this team has played its best basketball yet, and I believe it's going to be tonight. And I'll be daggone if they didn't go out and play the best game, especially defensively, that they had played all year. And just, when you go back and watch that game, I just felt like we didn't really give them a whole lot of easy field goal attempts. Everything was challenged. We were arriving on the catch on our closeouts, just little tiny details that just matter so much in games like that.
Mm-hmm. And talk about the importance. You mentioned that schedule, Ryan. Of course, you had some. Just looking at some of the teams you had. You had Harlan there. At some point in the year, you played the state champion. You played the state finalist in Harlan County. You played a Final Four team, and and Great Crossing. I mean, you played a lot of teams that were in that Sweet 16 tournament. Talk about the importance of that, because that's one thing that I like that I feel like that Ashland has gotten back to in recent years, like playing that statewide schedule. And I feel like Boyd's doing a really good job getting out there too, and getting like saying, hey, this is what we have here in Eastern Kentucky, and putting out a good representation.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to go out and play the best for a variety of different reasons. Just like what you mentioned with promoting your program across the state. We want people to know. We want people to know when they see that A walk in the gym, when they see that A on the chest, they know who we are. So I think it's important in terms of promoting your program, promoting your players, and when it all comes down to it, just getting your team ready to compete for a championship. That's why you go out and you play the best of the best. We're not scared of it. We know that we might take our licks, but ultimately that's where the growth is made is when you put yourself in adverse situations. That's when you're going to grow. You're not going to make any growth inside your comfort bubble. And our kids are bought into that. They understand that now, and it's an expectation. They just know. And I mean, they don't think twice about it. And it's to the point now to where told people as long as I'm able to be the head coach at Ashland, I'm not going to schedule any different. And and I love it. I love going out. It's a great networking opportunity for me personally as a coach. So there's a lot of benefits to it. But in order to get something, you got to go through something. and we're big on adversity and challenging our guys in every way possible. And I think it always has a way of paying off in March.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about the summer, because I mean it's not long after the season ends that I mean you're getting right back at it. And talk about the life of a basketball coach over the summer.
Well, it's busy. It doesn't really stop. I've been working on our game schedule since really back in February is when I started on it, and we're finally wrapping that up, our game schedule for the season, and then you got to roll right into your summer schedule. What camps you want to go to and who you want to go out and play, and things of that nature. And you also, we're big on strength and conditioning. We're in the weight room right now 3 days a week, and then with Coach Jer Sasser and Cassie Sasser, and then Coach Tyler Dotson 1 day a week. We're in the gym doing a high intensity skill workout, and so we're full force right now. We're working and trying to get bigger, stronger, faster, and in hopes that when we hit June 4th, which I think will be our first round of summer games, that physically we're ready to rock and roll. And we have so many guys that are playing AAU right now that they're getting a lot of game reps in as well. I've been able to get out and see our guys this spring and with their AAU teams, and that's been fun. But yeah, it's nonstop. There's something to be tended to on the daily, but like I said, I don't view it as a job. I love every second of it, and our summer schedule's finished. We're going to Rowland County. We're going to go to Transylvania University to the Bryan Lane camp. We're going to host a couple dates at Ashland, June 11th and June 13th. We are going to go to Dayton University, play games. That was great for us last year. Played 3 really, really challenging games. we'll go to George Washington, and then we'll finish out our summer at Collins High School for their NCAA live event. So altogether, we'll probably play somewhere between 22 and 25 games, which I think is plenty. And a lot of challenging basketball, but great opportunities and chances for guys to really show what they can provide for us in a varsity game, and the opportunity for our staff to evaluate what we have on our roster and what we need to do more of or less of, schematically what we need to adjust. So summer is a really, really fun time as a coach from an evaluation and schematic standpoint.
Mm-hmm. And one of the events, one of the things I've liked that you've continued is this is what I feel makes somebody truly great at what they do is you're an innovator. And one of those areas that you've innovated is the recent announcement about the Larry Conley Classic. And talk about that and the excitement for this event coming up this year.
I'm so excited, and I got the idea, really, it kind of came organically. I don't know if that's the word, last year when I was when I was working on the 23-24 schedule, so when I was working on last year's schedule, had a hard time getting games, had a hard time finding people to play us. It's just really, really difficult. It was very hard. But for some reason, it seemed like I just kept getting email after email after email of teams wanting us to come play in their one-day classic. And, we've got the AIT, and the AIT is phenomenal. The best post-Christmas tournament in the state of Kentucky. I believe that in my heart of hearts. But, I'm getting all these emails, and we end up going to several of them. We played at one in Corbin. We played at one at Lexington Christian. We probably played at one or two more that I'm not thinking of right now, but that's kind of what sparked the idea of me thinking, man, we need to get on this classic thing. I think we could really do, with us being in the tri-state area, I felt like it'd be a great opportunity for Kentucky teams to maybe play some teams that they wouldn't normally get the opportunity to play. And so that's what sparked the idea. And I also wanted to find a way to honor and pay respect to former Tomcat greats that have worn the maroon and given their all for Ashland. And the combination of those two things, I thought, man, I think we could really hit a home run with this. So I got started on that pretty early in the scheduling process because I wanted to beat everybody else to it. So I tried to start on that as early as possible and make that a priority. Because, I think it's, for me personally, I want to be able to, like I said, honor and respect and expose people to players like Larry Conley that some people might not know about. And, especially teams that are coming, they're going to get an opportunity to learn about a legendary basketball player in the state of Kentucky, on top of getting a great experience. We'll give these teams a top-notch experience in the way that we treat them and the accommodations that we'll provide. And, we've got a really good day of basketball lined up for that. And I'm super, super excited to host that event. And, I went to Jim Conway about it, and he didn't even blink an eye. He said, let's go. You got it. Make it happen. And we hit the ground running with it, and really, really excited to get to honor Larry Conley January 11th. It's going to be a fun day.
That's awesome. And I'm sure it helps to have an athletic director that's been in your shoes. Of course, Jim Conway, who's a valued assistant with the program, and when he left North Laurel was their all-time winningest coach with 86 wins, and always known for his ability to get the teams going late in the year. And let's talk. Yeah, that has to be, looking at that, because of course, Larry Conley as well, mentioning him, a valued player and one of the all-time greats, and a 1961 state champion, and that 61 Ashland team considered amongst the greatest really ever that have come through this state to this day. And let's talk about, speaking of some of the greatest teams, let's go back a little bit. You were an assistant on this team, Ryan. Let's talk about your experience with the 2020 Tomcats. 33-0, something that hadn't been accomplished since the 1940s, and no doubt about it, you were a key part on that team.
Yeah, that was a special year, and I was very fortunate, in my time working under Coach Mays. He really entrusted me with a lot of different things, and really allowed me to have a voice in what we were doing and how we were doing things. Now, ultimately, it was his final decision at the end of the day. He was the head coach, but he was always open to my opinion on things, and he always listened to me. And like I said, he gave me he tasked me with a lot of different things that really helped prepare me for where I'm at now. And but just that year was just so much fun, and I've actually gone back and watched some of those games on film in the last few weeks, just because you forget sometimes, and you just kind of want to go back and live in that for a little bit. And just the way that team played, just so unselfishly, and just it was just an exciting brand of basketball. And Coach Mays did a good job of putting together a scheme that really fit that personnel. And they just played extremely hard. There would be nights where we would, as coaches, we'd be like, "Gosh, man, how are we gonna find our way through this?" Because we played a tough schedule that year as well, and there'd be certain nights where we'd be thinking, "Gosh, man, I don't know if we can pull this one off or not." But it seemed like that group just always found a way. It didn't matter; they were going to find a way to win. And I thought that's what made that team so special, is just their will to win over everybody. And just so thankful to have had the opportunity to have been around those players, the coaches on that staff. It was just an extremely fun season. And again, those are the types of things that have helped prepare me for where I'm at now.
Yeah, that 2020 team, my gosh. And like you said, some of the obstacles you face. And I know one of the key moments from that year was Cole Viller's shot at Wes Carter. But what people don't mention about that game is, Ashland was down 41-28 in the second half. And, they were in, it looked like it looked like that was going to be Wes Carter's night. And, it was down double digits, I think, with 3 minutes to go even, and came back. And that team just did some extraordinary things. And unfortunate they didn't get to play in the state tournament. But, of course, some of the wins they had, on the road at Clark County without Ethan Sellers. And, of course, avenging the loss to Trinity from the prior year. I know Trinity had lost a lot, but they were still a tough team that year. Butler County, who had 3 of their 4 leading scorers back from an Elite 8 team. Warren Central, who was a Final Four team and had practically everybody back. So definitely a team that had some huge wins that year. And talk a little bit about let's go back to your time as a player and talk about your years playing. What are some of the fond memories that stand out from your time at Ashland?
Oh, there's a ton. I had such a great experience as a student athlete at Ashland. It was just an absolute blast. I wasn't fortunate enough to have the successes what some of our players are having now, but I wouldn't trade my experience for anything. From a football standpoint, or just really in general, basketball and football both, I think I kind of go back to what you said earlier, and I think that's what our players will realize 10 years from now. A lot of what they remember the most is probably outside of what took place on the field and on the court. It's being in the weight room, it's being on a bus trip, or being in the hotel room with your brothers, or just little things like that are really what come to the surface when you start reaching back for memories. But specifically as a player, as a basketball player, the district championship game against Fairview my senior year, Dylan Delaney hitting that game-winning shot, that was pretty special. That's one I don't think I'll ever forget. Football, my senior year, we played Woodford County at home, beat them 54-44, I think, at the time. That was one of the highest combined scoring games in Ashland football history, I think.
It was.
Okay, that's what I thought. I mean, it was a shootout. It was such a fun game. I'll never forget that one. Also, going back to my sophomore year, your senior year had a lot of good memories on the gridiron. That was a really, 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 really good football team. Exceptional football team. Really had all the pieces, and it was great for me because I got to play with my brother Luke. So that was an awesome experience for me personally, being able to play with my brother. Not every, I guess my biological brother is what I should say. Not everybody really gets to have that experience, so that was a lot of fun for me personally. But yeah, my experience as a student athlete at Ashland was top tier. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, and it's awesome for me to be able to see other young men living that out. And my hope is that our players and our programs say the same things that I'm saying now. 15 years from now, I hope that they're able to have the same experience. And that's one of the reasons, going back to the schedule, that we play the schedule that we play. You can't tell me that Nate Freese and Asher Adkins 15 years from now aren't going to be talking about how they got to play the top-ranked team in the state on their home floor on senior day. Those are things that create lifelong memories. And that's another reason why we do what we do, because I want our guys to have memories that will last them their entire life, and stuff that they can always look back on and be proud of, and just make them happy. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't trade my experience for anything, man. It was an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm. And we'll play, I guess, a little word association. You've already mentioned a couple, but I'm just going to mention some names and just whatever comes to mind. Nate Freese.
Leader. Nate Freese is a leader, and what excites me the most about Nate Freese is I'm excited to see what Nate Freese is doing 10 years from now, because his ability to lead, I think, is going to translate to phenomenal things well after sports, and just a overall great human being, good person, always smiling. And Nate was really big on keeping our morale high when times got tough this year, and that's important. And obviously his performance in the regional tournament will be always remembered. And but yeah, he just led, man. He was such a strong leader for us, and that's obviously going to be missed.
Asher Adkins.
Dog. DAWG, dog. Asher is just a tough individual, and he's the type of player that helps drive your culture in the right direction in terms of how he plays the game outside of when the ball is in his hands. Asher can impact a basketball game whether he scores 0 points or he scores 30 points, because he just plays so incredibly hard. And just another guy that's high energy, is a positive spirit, and just Asher has a joy for life that is just unmatched. And he and Nate had that combination that just really provided a lot of leadership for us. And Asher's one of those guys that's willing to do whatever it takes to win. I was joking about Asher during our banquet, and for the record, I would never, ever do this. I have to say that before I go into the story. But he's the type of player that if, like, you pulled him aside and you were like, hey, Asher, the next possession, I want you to go down there and I want you to break that guy's arm, he would do it. And not because he's like a vicious human being, but because, like, he will do whatever it takes to win. Now, again, I would never do something like that, but that's just the type of person he is, and I'm excited to see him continue to grow as a young man and as an athlete at the next level at center. I think he made a great decision in continuing his football career there.
And another senior who will be playing at the next level, one of the 7% who will get to have that opportunity, James Mayor.
Tireless worker. James is still developing as a basketball player. And one of the things that always impressed me about James is he works hard. He works extremely hard. He made a commitment to continue lifting in season, and stayed focused on getting stronger. And I think he grew a lot personally this year. And just like I said, his ceiling is still so high because he has only played several years of basketball, and he's got the frame, he's got the body. And I know that he'll continue to develop at a rapid rate, at a point to where he can really help somebody. And he did a lot of good for us in the locker room. Our guys really enjoyed being around him. And like I said, he had a really good workman approach to each and every day. And I think that if he continues to have that mindset, that it'll translate to good things at the next level, because like I said, his ceiling is still so incredibly high. He is nowhere near to have played his best basketball yet.
Mm-hmm. And last couple questions, get to know you better, Ryan. And of course, it's something I ask every time, but what's a neat fact about yourself? I don't know, I mentioned that in your first interview. Maybe a neat fact about you or Luke, or maybe something family related.
A neat fact. Well, personally, like I said, most people know this by now, but I do enjoy playing music. But I'm kind of a nerd about it. I'm an avid collector of vinyl records. I've spent more money than I care to admit on them. That's something again that just kind of is a good release for me. Kind of gets my mind off stuff. But yeah, I'm a huge music fan. My wife Chelsea and I, we like to get out and go to concerts as often as we can. It's a little bit harder nowadays, but we're both big on getting out and seeing different artists, and that's something that's always, I think, going to be really important to us. So yeah, I'd say that, like I said, a lot of people know that probably by now, but some people, I joke all the time. I say, you know what, man, some people fish, some people golf, some people hunt. That's, the music's just kind of my thing that I've always gravitated towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned Chelsea, and of course Chelsea, one of the great point guards to come through, played under actually Bill Bradley, who we had on the show this week, and talk a little bit about, let's see, okay, are there any shout outs you'd like to give or a message for the Ashland community?
Well, yeah, I mean, the community support over the past couple of years has been overwhelming. I'm very grateful for that. I'm really excited for the future of this program. There's a lot to be excited about in terms of what's coming up from our youth and middle school programs. A ton of talent. We're oozing with talent at those levels. Just want to praise our community and the people that stand behind us even through tough times. It doesn't go unnoticed, and we're excited to hit the road this summer, and we'll have 2 dates, June 11th and June 13th. We'll be playing here at Blazer High School. So anybody in the Ashland area that wants to come out and check us out, I think it's going to be an exciting brand of basketball. And then I'd just like to thank, obviously, give a shout out to my family, my wife Chelsea, daughter Lakin, for their unwavering support, because I don't get to do this if without support from the spouse, and she's all in, she's all on board, and very grateful for that as well. And again, thank you, Tyler, for doing this. This is great, man. I listen to all of them, and you do a phenomenal job.
I'm humbled of that, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on, man, and keep up the excellence. And we want to say thank you all for tuning in and watching today, and we appreciate you listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and help promote our athletes give us that stronger reach to do so. And we want to say thank you all, and God bless you, and we will see you soon. Good night, everybody.